And I'll show you my mug. I've been looking at Farah's mug, and this one says brave.
Awesome.
And that was awarded to me by my husband, who is producing our time right now, because I had to get used to everything. I had to get used to being seen. I had to get used to anything social media. I had email and I had texting, and that is all. Hey, Diane.
I was having such technical difficulties. I apologize.
Oh my goodness, is that what they call them? I actually was looking at something last night where a person uses technology to communicate at all because they use their eyes to look at alphabet letters or parts of words to communicate. And I said, "Oh, you are a fabulous, mascot and encouragement to everyone who thinks that technology is not helpful or out to get them, because technology has made this young man able to express everything that is in his wonderful mind, as he is moving along through life and moving on through his education." So I was just like, I'm going to remember this tomorrow. If anything technologically happens, that I'm going to be like, hey, technology is good. And there are two other people here that agree with that. Diane, Farah, Michael. Oh, I am so glad to be in this room with you today and to show you my brave mug. Farah, would you hold up your mug again?
My
And
senior foresight.
yeah,
Hey, senior living foresight.
I had to think about that a few times. Farah, you were the first one that came in the room. Would you, since we're I believe we're all meeting each other for the first time, but if you already know Diane, then you guys just go at it.
No, it's the first
But
time.
please, tell us. Well, I'm going to say, why are you here? And you can say, well, I was born, or you can say, well, I saw you on LinkedIn, whatever you want to say. Go right ahead, Farah.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for having me. My colleague and friend, Abby Ritchie, actually turned me on to your network. So I was really excited to kind of start to see you. And then I think we had that mutual introduction. But, I would say I'm in every conversation and really my connected life. I had been an executive for 20 years in senior living. I'd been advising investors and operators the last 5 years around better operations, how to meet the needs of the private pay market. And then I got sick and I was diagnosed with a rare brain, actually terminal brain degeneration. I refused to accept it. So part of my story today is talking about advocacy, both for residents, certainly seniors, people over the age of 60 are often, we have ageism that takes place in the medical community. And I fought hard, got into UCSF, and I didn't have a terminal brain disease. I had a very common form, but evidently my whole life, of epilepsy, focal epilepsy. And so over a course of months last year in 2021, I was treated and I have a new brain. So I feel like I went to Oz and I got a new brain. And with that new brain, at the age of 60, I had a decision to make. What will I do with the rest of my life? And so now my advocacy is to show what this looks like. I was accepted at ASU in the Edson College of Nursing and Health Innovation. I'm finishing a master's in aging. I was asked to launch Boston University's program with Scott Eckstein in senior living for graduate students. And then Steve Moran, who was a client, also I was a customer of his, asked me to join Senior Living Foresight to really help grow that platform as well. And at the same time, my husband and I moved to a Revel Legacy independent living community in Scottsdale. So I feel fully integrated for the first time in my life, my bachelor's and graduate work is in human development, but it was always about the other versus me. And now I feel that I have a valid voice to offer around all of these parts of our wholeness is in our human continuum. And certainly what I see today in our American culture around ageism and overcoming ageism. And we have to step up, all of us over the age of 55, certainly I'm over 60, and stand up for our right to contribute, be heard, have purpose, and not just go away in this American culture that, as Dr. Gillette has a great book called Aged by Culture. And in America, we see from birth to death a decline. And that is just not the truth of this human experience.
Oh my goodness. Yep. And some people would do mic drop. And I've not dropped a mic yet on purpose, but on accident. And sometimes they bounce. And Michael, you heard that word, ageism. And that is where I first met you, was in an ageism conversation. I felt like I was, like in your living room with some of your friends. I would love to hear more about you.
Well, that was an ageism collaborative that I've been very active with. But since transitioning out of the corporate world, I've tried to maintain connections with seniors and peers, and found a void, a real void in what was going on, at least in our area. I think the Midwest, and I'm outside of Chicago, is well behind the East Coast, well behind the West Coast, well behind the Southeast Coast with regard to what they're doing as far as helping seniors, helping older adults. And I was looking for conversation and started a senior group myself because there was a void. There just was nothing of the nature in the area, and got on the internet and started researching and looking for resources for this group that overnight grew to a couple of hundred people on our email list. And that's what my wife and I have been doing for the past almost 5 years, is just accumulating resources to share with senior adults. We've been doing entertainment when COVID struck and people were forced onto Zoom. But we also realized that 90% of the people that were bringing onto Zoom had no idea what they were doing. And it took me a while to start asking questions like, what version of Zoom are you running? And can you share your screen? Do you know how to save a chat? Do you know what annotations are? Can you use a white screen? And I was getting blank stares. It was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, well, how could you be on Zoom and not have any idea what I'm talking about? And so we started doing classes and teaching people how to use the internet, how to use computers. We're mainly Windows-based, but a lot of the programs that we use and a lot of the free resources on the internet are available both for Mac users, Linux users, as well as Windows users. So we've taught, and I got involved with a couple of other groups in the senior area. There's a 55 plus group that's launching businesses that I'm involved with. I'm involved with a website that's trying to bring together 50-year-old seniors and companies that want to hire those people. And I also do volunteer work for an organization that services the senior community that's based in Baltimore, Maryland. Thank God for Zoom and places like Meetup and Eventbrite. But we had a very interesting conversation a couple of months ago. And we have a meeting twice a month, and one of the meetings is for a guest speaker, and the other meeting is for just a discussion group. So the discussion was, what social media platforms do you use to promote your business? And since I've been on the internet since 2006, the subjects that they were bringing out, LinkedIn, Facebook, Alignable, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram, I knew all of them. I've been on all of those platforms, and I never said anything because, I didn't want to be, quote unquote, the expert in the room. But then they transitioned to another question, which was, well, what social platforms can you recommend to senior adults? And nobody had any suggestions whatsoever outside of Facebook. And I'm sitting there saying, I've been accumulating this stuff for over 4 years. You mean you're servicing the senior community and you've never heard of Get Set Up? You've never heard of Senior Planet? You've never heard of Cyber Seniors? And I just went on and on and on and on. And that's what's evident to me, that we have a whole bunch of resources out there, and there's no collective place to point to them and say, go. And the people that are in the most need of those are the least trained to do that kind of search or that kind of research. So that's what my wife and I have been doing for the past probably year or so, is trying to help seniors on various platforms learn how to navigate the internet a whole lot easier than they were, and with less trepidation.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, yes. And now I know that Alignable is, it keeps popping up. I got connected through yeah. I am a techno toddler. I run around touching things, getting into trouble, whining when it doesn't do what I want it to. And sometimes I'm told, hey, you did great on that. I was told by a person, I keep saying Pepperdine because most people know that that's a university. And a researcher PhD there said, I've been watching what you're doing on LinkedIn. I'm learning. I didn't know I was being watched because, yes, we don't even know what to ask about as we're coming out of nowhere. Just to let you know, in 1990, my third grade student, his dad opened a store to sell PCs to people. We did not have a PC in our school. I was a grade school teacher. So that dad set up our classroom with the only PC at that particular school. And his son taught me how to do a computer. I believe my husband had one, but he had a different kind, and that one happened to be Mac. So I stayed after school, and that 9-year-old taught me how to do this, and he is doing it to this day because I've met him as a husband and dad. So, wow, we are so grateful for those who will sit patiently with us and go, try that, and not make us feel dumb, not condescend, and not lose it when we're just going, I know you said that a few moments ago. Let me try again. So, Diane, I met you on screen when you were doing an author interview with my husband, who is also producing Our Time Together today. And so you were willing to jump. In fact, he said, you got to have Diane on your new. And so, and today really worked out for you to come in. So I would just like to know more about you. All I know is author. So anything that you say beyond that is going to be new news to me for sure.
Great. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. And wow, I am so honored to be in everybody's presence. I mean, I just want to interview each one of you because what you're bringing to the world is incredible. So my background is teaching, so I can go all the way back to the Philippines when Apple actually was looking. We were the incubator at the international school for will computers work in the classroom. So I have a whole giant story. I won't bore you with that, but it is important to have the be the coach on the side and also let the student be the coach to the teachers. But that's for people who have open minds. Wow, what you guys, I mean, I just don't even know where to begin. So I do believe, I don't believe in the word OLD. I believe that we are seasoned human beings and that we have a lot of wisdom to share. And I really agree with Farah that it is in our culture. I remember my daughter, she was, my oldest one was working on some sets in Hollywood, and her agent said, you know, you're 21, you're kind of old to be, you know, going after things. And Rachel called me crying. And I'm like, 21, what am I then, right? And so that mindset is incredible. And so now, so I've done a lot of things on stage throughout different countries and so forth. And it is amazing to me to meet people who are in their 30s saying they won't hire me because I'm in my 30s. And I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. But my background is gone from teaching, stage work, and so forth. I've always been a storyteller. As you can tell, I haven't stopped talking. And there was a moment in time that I decided I wanted to put my stories to print. And what a blessing that's been, not just because my books are finally published, but because I have met so many people, especially people that are trying to find themselves at this time in their lives. I remember helping my mom learn the first computer and then taught her the iPad. And then all of a sudden she had more friends than I did, you know, and now I'm in her age. I mean, I'm in that situation. So I was born in 1954, to just let everybody know. And I think that us, quote, seniors are seasoned people, are people of wisdom. And just like my grandma gave me lots of advice and wisdom, it's because you've lived chapters and we do have a purpose. And what I find now that I am doing is I'm actually helping people become storytellers and then putting their stories to print and helping them. So I have a couple of friends that are in their 70s now, and they are published, and it's very exciting to see because they have this new purpose in life, and they're making a difference. And anyway, I could go on, but I think I absolutely love that, right?
Oh my goodness. Yay. So I will admit, I was going to keep it a secret until I put out my next LinkedIn newsletter article, but I'm just going to reveal it right now. I have looked up a word that came into my mind just to make sure that I couldn't find it anywhere on Google. So the word is just a combination of two, and that is geropreneur. I've seen mompreneur, I've seen solopreneur, and of course, I believe the beginning of it all is entrepreneur. And in my mind, geropreneurs are specifically creating a service or providing a product or connecting people together. That person is, I guess I would say, qualifies to be in the gerontological end, or what I call the third of life. It seems like the first third is maybe the first 30 years, and the second third is the second 30 years. And then after that, it's the third of your life. So each year, when I turn 63, I still have a third of my life left. So it's not going to fit in somebody's mathematical thing. So I just keep thinking I'm still living into the third of my life. But geropreneurs in my mind are people who, in that this third of our lives, is creating something for people that specifically benefits. It could benefit anybody at any age, but specifically they want to get it out and before and make it accessible to people that are also living into the third of their life. So I might be on a screen with 3 other geropreneurs.
I know I want a cup that says that. Can you coin that, please? I love that.
I'm a geropreneur. Ask me why I'm a geropreneur, because you are actually maybe even starting this, or you've reconfigured what you've been doing, and now you're pointing it that direction. And it isn't, I don't know. I just don't want to put any barriers on what all that can mean, or what age you are when you feel like you're doing that, so I just wanted to list in this article, I just wanted to list a bunch of people and just like a blurb about what they're doing instead of talking about my thoughts, and put it out there, and just basically, put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, geropreneur, make a comment and say, this is what I'm doing. And age.
That's great.
Age. What is age, and what is too old? That sounds like a door slamming.
Yeah.
You are too old when you are like this,
Right.
Farah, tell me your thoughts as you've been listening to Michael and to Diane, your thoughts.
Well, just like Diane said, so honored to even be at the table. I feel like we're having such a dynamic conversation. And with my new brain, that, I went to Oz and I got a new brain, it made me realize that it didn't matter what my body was doing. I was privileged to be alive, privileged to be in a body. And I think that's the cultural message that I'm certainly learning more about in my own master's in aging, around how we in our third act, in our third chapter, as you said, we have to show the world, that we're not going away. And the opportunity for us that's so awesome to me on a global level is that the demographics are on our side. So we know the globe, as the US continues to age, and 1 in 5 Americans by 2050 will be over the age of 60. Globally, today there are 1 billion women that are postmenopausal. Where's the femtech? That's opportunity to me. And so when I think about 1 billion amazing women that instead have been medically classified as no longer fertile, it's instead they have a fertile void. How are they going to be productive? What are we going to do? Luckily, from, again, my studies, the UN has taken global initiatives in aging, the World Health Organization. Sadly, our US has kind of gotten those messages late. So just today, Christine and Michael and Diane, as we sit together and have this conversation, to lift up, and hopefully other people that, no matter what your age, can now see that aging is an opportunity to keep growing, right? I'm in a body, I'm still alive, I have purpose, my life has meaning, and it will continue to make I will choose to continue to make a difference. There are people, and I know them, my husband is one, that is fully retired and enjoying a very leisurely life. But even in that leisure, he asked himself, I want to do more. And I think that's a great question. And again, as we age as a global humanity, our global humanity, we will all be asked to do more to help each other.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So I've heard disruption as one of the things, disrupt this and, break biases. And just in this rectangle, there's asteroid impact people. And and some of it's been slow motion, and I don't know, can an asteroid snowball? I mean, once it hits, can it, like gather and get bigger and bigger? I was I'm going to say that word, just. I was just an in-home caregiver. My neighbor, we got in a conversation. She goes, "I'm going to hire you." And I'm going, "I don't even know what you do." And she says, "Well, I've seen you with our neighbors and I'm shorthanded." And I ended up in this world after being an educator doing in-home care. And I kept hearing the same thing from the families of my client, who were either talking about their future aging with the sigh of regret. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? It took so long, and there's so much, and it took me forever to figure out, what I'm supposed to do about this situation." And then others with a sigh of relief and just going, as we have dealt with these, spouses included, as we've dealt with different situations, financial and medical and emotional, I've been in communication with those who care about me and will continue to care about me. And we've already made agreements and made plans. And I was like, something should be done about this. And so I've tried to make a website and I've tried to write things. And I'm hearing there's people all over the place who are going, "Hey, there's resources. Look here for resources." You do not ever, this is not the first time that people have been aging. There are just incredible. I've heard void. I've heard being validated as we've been talking. Michael, you were bringing you before we came on the screen, you were saying something about where you kind of got forced into a job and then how you brought your wife into something. I say that my husband grabbed me by the ankle and dragged me into screen tech, connecting and all this. And now nobody can drag me out. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, once you determine or overcome your fear factor, and you say, and I get this every day, when we're training adults, where we're training senior adults, that was easy. Yeah, right. But we've got to hold their hands because there's this fear factor. But once you overcome that fear factor and you see how easy it is, then your mind can start exploring these different options, not to necessarily say you've got to go down a particular path. I remember when my finger was going like this when I launched my first website, over the enter button. I followed all the directions and it said, "Press enter." And I'm sitting there saying, this can't be true. All I have to do is press the enter button. And I press the enter button and
voila.
there's a website. It's, oh my God, they actually did that. Or the first time I opened the PC and there was a white screen, what do you do next? You start typing, but you don't know those answers. Like, I tried to explain what plug and play was to a peer. Okay. Couldn't understand that all you have to do is plug it into a USB port and it works. I had to go over there and actually demonstrate it. One of the biggest challenges for older adults right now is what to do with all their digital photographs. What do you do with them? Okay. And one of our biggest questions is, how do I transfer my photographs from my phone to my computer or back them up? All right. And I had to actually say, this is your charger. Take it apart, plug it into your computer, and voila. And then they say, that was easy. I said, right. And you hit, but they don't give you those instructions. And so I think each of us here has a different purpose in getting our thoughts out or our services out to other adults, and we want to share. I think that's a common goal of most
we
people.
want
And just because I'm passionate about what I do doesn't mean that we can't collaborate on this and make our resources available to other people. And I think that's one of the things that we have to do, is get the message out that it's unlimited out there, that these are tools, and you've got to take advantage of what these tools are and what these resources are.
Michael, while you were talking, I noticed that Scott put up on the screen Jennifer Todd. She was going, okay, geropreneur, but, and then she was talking about changing jobs at an age too old or perfectly seasoned. I think seasoned was one of the words that Diane said. When Michael and Stacy and Jeff and a few others were on a screen together, we were talking about, if you don't like the word old, what can you choose? And I glommed onto classic, because we've gone to a few classic auto shows and you can't wait to get there to, see that classic car. And you're just as excited about the one that hasn't been restored yet. And you're just like, look what's there. Oh my goodness. That reminds me of in Grandpa's garage and all that, as the ones that have been completely refabbed. So I feel like that's what Jennifer Todd might be getting at here, is like, look at these people at their age, at what are they doing? What age is that age when you are just marveling at what they're doing? It's, oh my goodness. I don't want to stop. I am going to say, Diane, would you just tell us one more, anything that you've been thinking about that has come across your mind in the last half hour? And then we'll go back to Farah, to Michael, and then we'll just have to wave goodbye. Diane, what are your thoughts?
I don't want the show to end. It's so exciting to talk to y'all. I have a million things, right? So I hope y'all can meet again. One of the thoughts that came to me to just share, in case y'all like this idea, is I was reminded when I was a young preschool teacher, we had a retirement center so close to our school, and I've always taught in private school. And once the parents agreed, so I'm talking quickly so you have plenty of time, and but we adopted grandparents,
Right.
and they would tell stories, and the kids loved it because a lot of times their real grandparents lived far away. And what came out of that was the woman in charge of figuring out things to do. I ended up working a little bit with her afterwards when the kids were all gone, because the grandparents would help them paint a picture while they're telling a story or make a Valentine, et cetera, et cetera. But what the residents wanted to do after that was, this has given me a new lease on life. And they wanted to start telling their stories. And before I knew it, we were over there helping them write their stories to give to their family. And so I just wanted to share that.
And who wins? The workers at a retirement center, seeing all that energy, it revives them. The teacher is just floating on air going, I can't wait to get back there. The kids tell stories to their parents. Their parents are just like, oh, that's so marvelous. The families hear from maybe their parents, their loved ones there, about, you couldn't believe, that kid is smart as a whip. Everybody wins, and everyone is
and the respect level, instead of
equally
walking into a retirement
respected.
center going, oh my gosh, there's old, they're like, I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to see what story. They have such an incredible life, and how exciting is that, right? And that's what I wanted.
Oh, I love it. Diane, or not Diane, Farah, there we go.
I keep putting my phone on mute. We're having a real experience. My retired husband's going out for the day. So
Yes,
uh,
yes, this
I
is reality.
moved into our community 2 months ago, and I have been so engaged in activities and work that I haven't finished my office. So I'm in my living room. So thank you. I love what Diane said. My bachelor's is in human and child development. So I was an administrator for Montessori. And as I've watched
Montessori.
in this aging equation, we compartmentalize so many things in our culture instead of intergenerational. And I posted on LinkedIn, New York Times article about caregivers in Japan bringing their infants and toddlers to work. And because we have a crisis today in caregiving, I think it's a great solution. Certainly in my community, we had a young person that just left to go and work in the daycare where her infant was instead of staying to work here. And so I think we just have that, if we could take a opportunity as a culture to see that we're really interdependent and that intergenerational, I think we're going to feed the narrative that this human continuum is something that we're on a path of, but not a decline. And so I agree, Diane. I think the priceless generation of vitality and awareness and our humanity comes when we're doing more of this intergenerationally together.
Oh,
Thank
so
you.
celebrating our interdependence, not just independence, but I just, I love all of that. Michael, I'm going to let you finish off.
I don't know whether I have any words to finish up after everything I've heard, to tell you the truth. It's all marvelous, and I revel in it. And I think a lot of this has to do with looking at some of the ages of our politicians and sitting out there and saying and reflecting and saying, how many years ago would we have thought that we'd be listening to presidents in their high 70s, to the speaker of the House in her 80s. I mean, Dr. Fauci in his 80s, McConnell in his 80s. I mean, I think that has a bearing on the fact that we're waking up to say you're not decrepit at 65. You don't just go into a wheelchair and sit there and rock or sit there in front of the TV. But I think that business has got to wake up to that. I think there's a lot of discrimination and a lot of ageism, and that I've interviewed a number of seniors in this regard, and one of them that stands out is a cousin of mine who absolutely loves the fact that the company she's working for appreciates her wisdom and her knowledge and her ability, and accommodates that through flexible scheduling, part-time work, even benefits. And I don't think the vast majority of corporate America adheres to that. And I think that's got to be the next revolution that takes place.
Wow. Reveling and revolution. I like you
And I like
want to share and want these realities to grow and capture the imaginations of anybody, any age. Go ahead, Michael.
all I was saying was I like you. Okay.
Because you said I like you.
Yeah, but the reality is, though, we're talking about a very small fraction in our age group, though, that are really viable and really on the internet and involved in things like LinkedIn or other platforms. There's this whole big, larger community, and you're probably talking, you have to realize that 15% of the population in general is in this age group. Half of them have no connection to the internet whatsoever. They don't know, they don't want to get involved. They don't even have a smartphone. They don't have email. And then another big portion of that other half just don't have the skills to get onto the internet and do the things that you and I take for granted. And that's where I'm trying to make a difference.
Yeah, I've had to be interconnected with either my daughter helping me with my phone or my husband going, taking a breath and saying, go up to the left-hand corner and look for this. I mean, my hands go up and I'm, and I'm going to encourage people. I said I'm a techno toddler. I run around, I touch things, I find out how they work. I'm discovering human beings. And it was really easy for me to think that if it's all on screen, then it's kind of like watching TV. Intellectually, I knew that. I knew these were real people, but I just felt like there couldn't really be this kind of connection. And I was wrong. And I have now desired, to drive a distance to go and see someone that I met here. And Farah knows that I do have a plan to be in Arizona. So I will get together with her. Our plans keep changing, but we still plan to be there. We have family there. So it's just like, I want to come and see where it is that you do all that you do. So I'm so grateful, everyone. I don't have a good way to end this off. I will just say goodbye to all of you if you can stay after for a moment when the screen goes to banner. But I will just sign off by saying, hey, if you didn't know it by now, this is why I call myself the aging enthusiast.
All right.